So, good morning, everyone. First of all, I like to thank the management principal of RBS College of Engineering and Technology, and also I extend my grateful and thankful to my friend Dr. Kannan, HOD of RVS Petrochemical Department, RVS College, and all other faculties in the Petrochemical Engineering Department. So, thank you one and all. Dear students, this presentation about essentials of process plant and piping technology will emphasize more on the practical tips to understand the complete anatomy of the process plant. So, after completing your BE degree course, you may be appointed as a process engineer or production engineer or project engineer, whatever it may be the position. You have to thoroughly know about the anatomy of the process in which you are working. So, in this manner, I am going to highlight some important aspects of process engineering and piping technology. First, we should know. So, what all are the components of a process plant? A process plant is one in which a reactant is converted into a product. When you are feeding a crude oil, you will get petrol, diesel, kerosene as the product. When you are feeding benzene and chlorine, you will get chlorobenzene. Like that, a reactant is converted into a product by means of utilizing some machines materials. So, what all are the machines and materials which will complete the reactions? So, in a process plant, so lot of processing units such as reactors, heat exchangers, pumps, distillation columns, absorber, dryers are arranged in a sequential manner, and also it's all interconnected with some interlocking system. The primary objective of this process plant is to achieve the production target and production output. In any plant, suppose you are working in a benzene manufacturing plant, the plant capacity, the plant is designed to produce 100 tons per day. So then you have to produce, you have to give the product output 100 tons per day. And also the products are manufactured according to certain specifications. So to give the product as per the specification is our target. To achieve this target, so all the reacting units, processing units, purification units, and other accessories are arranged and connected with interlocks. So to operate this process plant, one should know which equipment is placed in which place, what is its role, what is the next downstream equipments, what is the upstream equipments. Then only you can operate the plant with successfully. It is not only achieving the target is our motto, our objective. In order to this target, you have to consider some societal needs. That is the primary objective of any engineer. When you mean an engineer, he should be able to apply the scientific knowledge in accordance with the societal needs. So, what are societal needs? The cost of production. When you are producing a product, launching in the market, it should be within the buying limit of the customer. Suppose if you are manufacturing a vaccine for coronavirus, you are launching it in the market, it should be in the affordable price. So to reduce the cost of price, to optimize the cost of price is our primary concern. Then you have to consider the safety aspect. When we say safety, it means safety of a man, machine, and material. So everything you have to consider while operating a plant. Then environmental facts. What are the emission standard? What is the pollution control board norms? How the pollutants are controlled inside the plant? And other statutory and mandatory requirement you have to govern when you are operating a plant. The responsibility of a production engineer, when you are working in a production as a production engineer in a plant, so your achievement, your target is achieve the target, and you have to maintain the quality of the product. You have to give assurance for quality and maintaining quality records. So whatever work you are doing in the plant, you have to be recorded and maintained from morning 9 to 5 or from entering the shift and leaving the shift. Every activities has to be recorded. The activities will be recorded in the logbook, and all the process parameters and other maintenance schedule will be recorded in the concerned records. So it is the responsibility of the process engineer to maintain this all these quality records. Then production planning and cost optimization. So how we can achieve the target, how we can achieve the product specification, how to reduce the cost of the plant production. Everything bears with the responsibility of production engineering. Developing and implementation of a process system. So how to modify the existing process. So how to alter the existing process to increase the efficiency of the plant. Then preparation and execution of maintenance schedule. So maintenance means it includes preventive maintenance and breakdown maintenance. For preventive maintenance, you have to prepare the schedule for daily maintenance, daily routine work, weekly routine work, monthly routine work like that. And also breakdown maintenance, you have to prepare the schedule in accordance with, in discussion with all the other service departments. Then smooth operation of the plant is one of the responsibility. Ensuring process and personal safety, it is very very important. While operating a plant, to achieve zero accident is our should be our primary motto. Then energy utilization and optimization. Once you become expert in this energy conservation and optimization, you will have a bright future. So next we will see the what is the anatomy of a plant. The anatomy of a plant process consists of plant layout, process flow diagram, piping and instrumentation diagram, piping layout. So once you enter into the plant as a graduate engineer trainee, you are a raw material from the institute. So you have to thoroughly understand the anatomy of the plant. The first thing you have to learn is plant layout. So the plant layout describes the location of the processing units. It tells you the geographical location and the location of various process units and non-process units like administrative building, security office, dispatch, process units like reaction zone, packing section, purification section. So everything you have to visualize. Then process flow diagram. So process flow diagram describes the arrangements of equipments, arrangements of reactors, vessels and pumps. This you have to memorize. Then piping and instrumentation diagram. So once the process flow diagram describes the arrangements of the equipments, the P&I diagram describes the connections between these instruments and interlocks between these instruments. And finally, piping layout. This will give you a clear picture about detailed engineering of the plant. The next, this is the plant layout. The plant layout consists of process area and non-process area. Then process area is again classified into on-site and off-site. So off-site, it includes utility area in which compressor, cooling water, raw water, boilers and other utilities will be maintained, and the storage yard will be placed in the off-site. When you come to the on-site, it consists of a mainly control room, then production area, then reaction zone, like that. Laboratory for quality control, purification, distillation area, absorption, like that. Purification area includes. Then recovery area, byproduct recovery and catalyst recovery, everything will be done in this recovery unit. And finally, the finished product storage area, then packing and dispatch. In addition to this, in every plant, there should be a waste treatment plant or effluent treatment plant. So this is the description of process area. In non-process area, security office, admin building, training center, cafeteria, workshop, fire station, parking, and assembly points. So these are the minimum requirement of any plant layout. When you are preparing a plant layout, these are the factors to be considered for preparing the plant layout. And as a process engineer, you should be able to visualize the aerial view of this plant layout. Then only you can easily access the area when there is an emergency. Then this is process flow diagram. It consists of arrangements of equipments. Here one distillation column, reactor, furnace, cooling tower, or everything is arranged in a sequential manner, and also it describes the direction of the process flow. So when you are looking a process flow diagram, you should understand what all are the equipments we use in the plant and where it is located. So you have to memorize, you have to visualize at the center of the plant one distillation column is there. Downstream, sorry, before the distillation column, furnace is located. So after the distillation column, one mixing tank is there. So distillation column is in the ground floor. It ends at the 8th floor. Then after above the 8th floor, there is one cooling tower. Then next to the mixing tank, there is a reactor. Like that, you have to visualize the entire plant and how from where the materials or fluids from routed through from which equipment to which equipment. Everything you have to visualize and memorize as a process flow diagram. Okay, next. The process flow diagram is drawn. All the equipments are arranged and materials flow is intimated. So you in a process plan, your aim is to achieve the production target. Sir, சொல்லுங்க சொல்லுங்க சார். அப்படியா? எங்க தெரியுதே. அப்படியா? சரி நீங்க பின் பண்ணீங்களா? So you are given a target to achieve the production. So in order to achieve this production, you have to walk pillar to post. If a plant is located around or 5 acres land, means you have to walk all around 5 acres throughout the shift. It is not possible. Then you can sit in a single control room. You can maintain all the process parameters for which you need. You know the process flow diagram. Each equipment is located in which place, and also you should know what is happening inside each equipment. Suppose your reactor is there, you should know what is the operating temperature, what is the pressure, a distillation column is there, what level should be maintained, what is the bottom product, what is the reflux ratio, everything you should know. Then you can install a instrument to control the flow, to measure the flow, to measure the temperature, to measure the pressure. So these instruments are located in the field. These readings are directly conveyed to the control room. By simply sitting inside the control room, you can monitor and control, operate everything, and you can achieve the target. But in actual practice, there will be some disturbances due to rain season or due to breakdown of some equipments or power failure. Like that, you cannot simply easily achieve the target. You have to struggle more to suppress the influence of these external disturbances, and also to achieve the process safety and product safety and optimizing the performance of a process. One can install a control system. So once all the instruments are connected with an interlock, and all the parameters are divert to the computer. The computer controls everything. That is called process control. So the need for the control system is to maintain the process parameters at a desired value, desired operating value. We know what temperature we should maintain, what is the level should be maintained. A level controller will take care of the level maintenance. A temperature controller will take care of the temperature maintenance. So process instrumentation and control is the main heart of the plant. These are the components of a control system. A control system consists of a process. The process variable is measured by a measuring element. The measured variable is compared with the desired value. Our desired value already we have fixed as a set point. This measured variable is compared with the set point, and the difference between the measured variable and the set point is generated as a error. This error goes to the controller. The controller will adjust the final control element to maintain the process parameters. So this is the components of a control system. There are several control loops will be provided in the process plant. This includes feedback control, feed forward control, feed forward plus feedback control, ratio control, split range control, cascade control, and differential control. So these all are the things you have studied in your process dynamics and control subject. This subject knowledge you are going to apply in the plant. The next, piping and instrumentation diagram. In the process flow diagram, the arrangements and sequence of the equipments and the sequence of the operations are mentioned. Here, the connection between these equipments and the instruments installed in the equipment, the interlocking between the instruments, how the controlled variable is conveyed to the control room, in what way, whether it is electrical signal or pneumatic signal, and how many instruments are located in the field, how many instruments are located in the control room, how many instruments are located in the remote place. Everything will be detailed in this piping and instrumentation diagram. So, so when you are entering as a graduate engineer trainee in a plant, you will be asked to first read the plant layout, then you have to read the process flow diagram. The next level you should go to the P and ID. Once you thorough with P and ID, you will become the master of that plant. Then we can see what is the difference between process flow diagram and process instrumentation diagram. In the process flow diagram, very less number of details are given. In P and ID, it has a comprehensive details. In PFD, the instrument details, the piping details will not be available. P and ID will tell you everything. The PFD gives an overall details view of the plant. The P and ID displays all crucial equipments, piping information, instrumentation details, and pipe tagging, instrument number, equipment number. Everything will be detailed in the P and ID. This kind of diagram shows the flow of chemical materials and the equipment involved in the process. So what is how the flow is routed from one instrument to another instrument, and what all are the equipments involved in the process, the PFD will tell. The P and ID will tell you all the components of a physical process and piping related to the process. So it is in PFD is a overall view, P and ID is a detailed description of a process plant. So once you thorough with the plant layout, PFD and P and ID, by simply sitting in your home, you can control the plant. You can give instruction to your operators and supervisors. Now let us see how to read the P and I. So reading P and I is a very difficult task for a graduate engineer trainee. You have to walk along the pipelines. Then you should come to the control room and see the P and I, and you trace another pipelines. So this P and I reading includes line tracing, identification and understanding of the control loops, read and understand the tag description, reading the symbols, equipment details and symbols. So line tracing, when you start reading P&I, you start with the left side. The left side is the entering stream. You take any one pipe, start from the raw material storage, you start the raw material pipeline, you note down the number. The line number is given. For example, 3P12007 A09 H30. This is the line number. Here the 3 denotes the size of the pipe. So 3 is the 3-inch pipe. P means service fluid. So what are the fluid? For what purpose the pipe is utilized? Whether it is a process fluid or cooling water or boiler feed water or utility fluid. So second one is the service fluid details. Then 12007, that includes the unit number and area number. So 12007, in the 12th area, 007 is the serial number of the pipe, and A09 is the piping service class, in which A denotes the flange rating and 09 is the piping material, what type of pipe, whether it is a carbon steel or mild steel or stainless steel, the piping details are mentioned. Then H means insulation type. If N, instead of H, if there is N, that is no insulation. H means hot insulation. If it is C, it is cold insulation. If it is PP, personal protected. If it is S, internal treated, externally painted. A means internally treated, externally coated. B means external coated. E means electric traced. F means cold insulated. I means hot insulated. T means steam traced. V means external jointed. W means jacketed. So these are the components of the line number. You take one line and trace the line, it will go around several kilometers. You have to walk along with the pipe and you have to check what all are the components installed in between these lines. The second one is flow direction. While tracing the line, you should note down the flow direction. Flows on P&I diagram enter from left. It will start with the left and ends with the right. And direction of flow is shown at the end. In each line, you can see a arrow mark. That arrow mark shows the direction. When there is a specification break, if you are following a 4-inch pipeline, sometimes the pipe will be reduced to 3-inch or increased to 6-inch. Then there will be a spec break in the P&I. Then left arrow, right arrow at the beginning of the left side of the P&I and right side of the P&I, you can see the arrow. That arrow indicates this stream is coming from other division of the plant. And the right side arrow indicates this stream goes to next division. Like that you can understand. Then these are the control loops will be placed in the P&I diagram. In P&I diagram consists of several control loops. When you take a vessel, it is a vessel 100. Here one level controller is installed. This is a level control loop. One level transducer is there, level controller is there, level control valve is there. This includes one control loop. And another control loop, it is a process variable, it is a temperature control. So like that, several control loops will be installed in the P&I diagram. You have to count, when you are tracing the line, how many control loops and how many equipments are connected in this line, you have to trace. Then tag description. For every equipment, every instrument, every pipelines, there will be a identification tag. So if this identification tags, FIC here, FIC 55. FIC 55 includes F is the flow variable. If it is F, it is flow. If it is T, temperature. P means pressure. Then I is the indicator. What is the purpose of the instrument? And C is the controlling instrument. FIC means flow indicator controller. It is given in the circle. One straight line is here. If it is no line, if it is a simple circle without any line in between, means the instrument is located in the field. If it is a solid line, the instrument is located in the control room. If it is mentioned in a dotted lines, the instrument is located in control room, but it is not visible to the operator. It is not easily visible to the operator. It will be behind the board. So these are the notations when we use to describe a tag. Then TT means temperature indicator. Another TT means temperature transmitter, temperature recorder, temperature controller, level indicator, like that. You can read that tag description. Then instrumentation numbering. Each and every instruments will have a separate number. It includes X, Y, Y, C, Z, Z, L. That means X represents the process variable to be measured. Y represents the type of instruments. C designates the instruments area within the plant. Z designates the process unit number. LL loop number. Now we can see the example. LIC 11003. L means level shall be measured. IC means indicating controller. 110 process unit number 10 located in the area number 1. 03 is the loop number. Like that, FRC 82516 means F is the flow shall be measured. RC is the recording controller. 825 is the process unit number 25 located in the area number 8. And 16 is the loop number. Like that, you have to read the instrumentation number. The next, equipment identification. For each equipment in the process P&I diagram, the details will be mentioned at the top or corner of the P&I diagram. So it includes tank. T means tank or vessels. P means pump. H means heat exchanger. R means reactor. C means compressor. And the size of the equipment, capacity of the equipment, material of construction, everything will be described in the P&I diagram. Then P&ID symbology. It is a graphical representation. When you say P&ID, that is a graphical representation of the process flow. Everything will be mentioned as a symbol. This symbol includes line symbology, piping symbology. So what is the line? It's the connected line, double pipe line, traced line, electrical traced, steam traced, or jacketed or insulator. Like that, line symbology will be there. Piping symbology will be there. Valve symbology, whether it is a gate valve or globe valve, ball valve, pneumatic valve, solenoid valve, like that. Valve symbology. Filter symbology, what's the type of filter? Instruments and instrumentation symbology. Pump symbology, compressor symbology, vessel symbology. So all the symbols you have to remember. These are the basic pumps and tank symbols used in the P&I diagram. Then design elements. Next one, the basic compressor and turbine and motor symbols. Then basic heat exchanger and cooling tower symbols. Basic reactor symbols, furnace and boiler symbols. Line symbols, whether it is electrical line or pneumatic line, capillary tube, hydraulic line, like that. Then piping symbols, valve symbols. Now we can see the actual P&I diagram. This diagram shows the P&ID for a benzene distillation. Here, benzene toluene mixture enters the distillation tower and divided into two streams. At the top, the benzene vapor goes to the heat exchanger, condenser. Then condensate goes to the reflux drum V104. From the reflux drum, fuel gas is separated, and at the bottom of the reflux drum, the product is drained and it is pumped through and the product from the reflux drum, one part of the product goes to the distillation tower as a reflux and another part goes to the storage, and at the bottom of the distillation tower the toluene is obtained. Now this P&I diagram consists of several pipelines and vessels and loops. Now we can see how many pipelines and vessels are provided. It contains T101 distillation column, one distillation column, E106 one reboiler, E104 one condenser, V104 one reflux drum, and the lines benzene toluene feed to the distillation column, benzene rich vapor leaving at the top of the column, condensate leaving the condenser at the bottom of the condenser, fuel gas leaving the reflux drum, benzene reflux to the column, benzene product to storage, toluene leaving at the bottom of the column. There are 7 different pipelines are there. The first line benzene toluene enters the tower. The second benzene vapor leaves the tower and enters the condenser. Then from the condensate leaves the condenser and enters the reflux drum. From the reflux drum, fuel gas is separated, and at the bottom of the reflux drum, a product is tapped and it is pumped through the pump P1 and P2. P1, one pump is operating, one pump is standby, and the reflux is pumped to the distillation tower, and another line product when benzene goes to the storage, and finally the bottom product toluene is obtained. It is a separate line. There are 7 separate pipelines you have to trace in the plant. Then these 7 pipelines connects 4 important vessels, that is distillation tower, cooling condenser, reflux drum, reboiler, and 2 pumps are connected. So this line shows that this is a 3-inch schedule 40 carbon steel pipeline. This symbol shows the insulation. This line is insulated pipeline. So in this diagram, 7 different pipelines, that is 7 stream of pipelines connects the 4 primary vessels. And next we can see how many loops are there. There are 4 control loops provided in this P&I. First one is distillation column bottom level control loop, then reflux flow control loop, fuel gas pressure control loop, reflux drum level control loop. Here the distillation tower bottom fluid level is maintained. It is measured by the level indicating element LE. Then this level indicating element transmit the signal to the level transmitter. Then this level transmitter transmit the signal to level indicator controller, and there is an alarm. A alarm will be actuated in the control room so that the control room operator can notice. Then the level indicator controller controls the level control valve. When the level is high, we can open the valve to reduce the level. When the level is low, we can close the valve to maintain the level in the distillation bottom. So this is one control loop which controls the level in the distillation tower. And the second is the reflux flow controller. From the reflux drum, the reflux is pumped to the distillation tower. Here one flow indicator, flow element is Fe is there, which will transmit the measured variable to the flow transmitter, and it goes to the flow indicator controller. Here also one alarm will be actuated. Then this FIC controls the flow control valve FCV. Finally the flow of the reflux will be adjusted. Like that, one pressure control loop in the fuel gas and another level control loop in the reflux drum. So this P&I diagram for benzene distillation consists of 7 separate pipelines, 4 important vessels, and 4 control loops. So once you memorize these instruments, vessels, pipelines, and process flow diagram, plant layout, you will become master in the particular plant. Then this is an example for a piping layout, whether it is a petrochemical industry or refinery industry. or as a other chemical manufacturing company, you can see several number of pipes. There is another layout. The basic concepts of piping. What is a pipe? A pipe can be defined as a tube made of metal, plastic, wood, concrete, or fiberglass. So what? சொல்லுங்க 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 சார். அப்படியா அந்த சரி பாக்குறேன் செக் பண்றேன். Then now we will discuss about the some important aspects of piping. So what is pipe? A pipe can be defined as the tube made of metal, plastic, or wood, concrete, or fiberglass. So for what purpose the pipes are used? So piping system is generally considered to include the complete interconnection of pipes, including inline. So the piping is we know it is a transportation medium to transport fluid from one place to another, one vessel to another vessel. Piping is essential. So what is the design criteria for a piping system? When you choose a pipe, it based upon the nature of the materials, whether it is a corrosive material or non-corrosive material or a colloidal materials or like that, and it depends upon the operating parameters such as temperature and pressure and velocity of the fluid, space limitation, process requirements, whether it is a straight line pipe or circular pipe like that, and we have to check the stress analysis for the pipe. These are the various piping criteria while choosing the piping system. Then piping material. Usually guidance for selecting the correct material can be obtained from standard piping course. So there are some standard codes available. Generally the ASME code is used for pressure piping includes power piping, industrial gas and air piping, refinery and oil piping and refrigeration. So in every refinery industry, oil and gas industry, power industry, we use the piping code as per the ASME code. Then piping system, the objective being to ensure the material used is entirely safe under the operating conditions of pressure, temperature, corrosion and erosion expected. There are different kinds of materials are used to construct the pipes. The normally steel, cast iron, brass and copper are used in the petroleum and petrochemical industry. Then pipe size. Normally the pipe size is mentioned as normal pipe size around NPS and pipe schedule. Pipe schedule is nothing but it describes the thickness of the pipe. NPS means the outer diameter of the pipe. So these are the various pipe size. For NPS 1 by 8 to 12 inch, the NPS is different from the outer diameter. The NPS is calculated from the center to center, whereas outer diameter is the outer to outer. For the pipe more than 14 inch, the NPS is equal to the OD. Outer diameter and the normal pipe size will be the same. But schedule means it mentions this thickness of this pipe. The thickness of the pipe is called as schedule, and ID is the inner diameter. Inside diameter is called ID. So these are the normally used commercial pipe sizes. This table shows the various pipe sizes and its weights and schedule for choosing a correct pipe. Then pipe fittings, elbows, nipples, couplings, unions, T's and cross, Y bends, return bends, plugs and caps, bushing, reducers. These all are the normally used pipe fittings in any piping industry. So these are the example for pipe fittings. This is T, elbow, flange, like that. So methods of connecting pipe. There are generally three methods are available to connect the pipes. One is screwed connections and flanged connections. Then finally welded joints. The screwed connection means the pipes at the end of the two ends, a thread will be turned and we connect the pipes by screwing this one. This has an advantage of it can easily assemble and disassemble, but it has the advantage of leakage. Then flanged connections. So flange, flange is a connecting surface. If the flange is connected by using a gasket, two pipes are connected by means of providing gasket inside. The gasket will take care of the leak proof. Then welded connection means one pipe is welded with another pipeline. This avoids the leakage. Piping supports. The first diagram we can see the piping layout. There are several pipes are going here and there. For each and every pipe, we have to provide the support. Otherwise, it will bend or it will damage. While designing a support, we have to include the weight of the pipe and weight of the material and the thermal expansion, everything. Also vibration. Then piping drainage. When you are using pipe for a steam transportation, during the transport of steam, the steam temperature will vary depending upon the environment. So the inside the pipe, the steam will start condensate. This condensate will create a hammer inside the pipe. This is called water hammer. So to avoid this water hammer, now and then at a particular interval of length, we have to drain some steam from the pipelines. Then only we can avoid the water hammer. That is called piping drainage. So we have to provide drainage facilities for while designing a piping layout. Then steam separators. So to drain this condensate, we have to provide the steam separators at several locations. This includes steam traps. So steam traps is the main instrument used to drain the condensate from the steam pipelines. Then piping insulation. Piping insulation to prevent the heat loss or cold loss. There are several materials used for providing the insulation. That is silica, asbestos, calcium silicate, cellular glass, magnesia, glass fiber, and plastic foams. Finally, we will discuss about the color codes and standards. There are certain codes and colors used to identify the pipelines. That is based on the ASME and ANSI standard. BS 1710 is used for specification for identification of pipelines and services. IS 2379 used for pipelines identification color code, and PFI ES22 recommended practice for color coding of piping materials. So these are the some examples of color codes used in a petroleum refinery. I hope all of you understand the basic anatomy of the process plant, and you can use this concept while you are entering as a graduate engineer trainee in a process plant. Thank you very much. Thank you, sir.